Well, in chapter 3, the bus from hell lands in heaven, and as he is getting off and looking around, looking at the people whom he's been on the bus and looking at himself, he realizes that he is ghostly, that he is insubstantial, that in the light and the brightness of heaven, he and the people around him, these people that he thought of as being very human, are almost transparent. When he was in the dark town and on the first part of the bus, he didn't notice because there wasn't the same kind of brightness, the same kind of light. And getting closer to heaven, getting closer to God, the brightness and the brilliance has brought out who he really is and who the people with him really are, that they are ghosts, they are insubstantial. Lewis tries to bend a blade of grass. He tries to pick up a leaf, but he's unsuccessful. He's not substantial enough to make any impression. If anything, the grass are like spikes on his feet. It's painful for these spirits to walk around. When the blessed people, the people who have evidently met God or been united with God, come to meet the ghosts, Lewis describes them as the solid people because they're not transparent the way that he and his other visitors are. Lewis admits to borrowing this idea from a science fiction story about time travel, that somehow the person who went back into the past can't make any impression on things because he can't alter the course of what's happened. But Lewis is using this device to make a totally different point. To be damned, to be away from God, is to make yourself less real. To be in heaven, to be closer to God, to the maker of the universe, is to make yourself more real. So the farther you are away, the less substantial you are, and the closer you are, the more solid you are. Lewis describes this process of changing from a ghost to a blessed spirit as a thickening process. As long as a self tries to be its own good and be its own happiness, it is less real, it is insubstantial. But as a soul finds its good and its happiness in God, gives up this merely natural self, this selfish self, it grows and becomes more real. It is this change from selfishness to self-giving in God that allows a person to have a real substantial self. It's perhaps Lewis's illustration of this principle from the Gospels, that he who loves his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for the sake of the gospel will find it. The other point that Lewis illustrates here is that growth in holiness is painful at first. In the next letter, Lewis will compare about how walking on the grass is like walking on something as hard as diamonds, and how it hurts his unsubstantial feet. Only with time are these souls going to harden and the journey be less painful. But as there is this growth in holiness and this growth in solidity, becoming more substantial, then they become more like the terrain that they are on and more able to move into the deep heaven that awaits them beyond. Well, in the next letter, we'll look at a dialogue between the big ghost, who we've met already, and one of the solid people named Len, and see whether or not he accepts Len's invitation to stay in heaven.